This is On the Sidelines with Box 13.
All right. Hello and welcome to On the Sidelines podcast, episode 27. Can you believe that? Austin, the key card still works. I'm joined here today by super producer Austin Lane. He's going to help us out. Austin is in charge of podcasting behind the scenes, helps us out a lot. Give him an On the Sidelines podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always fun to be behind the scenes, but then, every once in a while I'll jump on the camera and have some fun here too as well.
Yes, we're going to talk sports today. We're going to talk Mariners. Cal Raleigh breaking the home run record for catchers. But I have a question. Is he really the MVP? All right, we have Seahawks. They lost their third preseason game, 20-7 against the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk about Jalen Milroe. Austin also was kind enough to have an interview with, Chat Sports, Seattle Today host. So we'll run that. And then the Seattle Sounders, they blitzed Sporting KC last night, Sunday night. Danny Masofsky with the hat trick. We'll talk a little Storm and what's trending, the NCAA. All right, we're going to start with the Mariners. And the only story to start with, and that's Cal Raleigh. Initial thoughts on Cal Raleigh and breaking the home run record for catchers.
I mean, historic season, one to remember. Glad that it's happening here in Seattle. You got the hometown kid. This is a guy who's gone from, kind of an underdog story, if you think about it. Not our top prospect, not the blue chip that you are like waiting to get through the minor leagues. This is a guy who burst onto the scene kind of over the last 3 or 4 years in Seattle and kind of unexpectedly, right? I mean, where we were thinking, okay, Julio Rodriguez could be that guy,
Yes.
or we were thinking one day Jared Kelenic might be that guy. If you look back at those times where we were rebuilding, it was like those were the two guys that we were kind of banking on being successful, and Cal Raleigh just kind of came out of nowhere. And over the last couple of years, he's become a household name here in Seattle, but now he's a household name across the country.
Yes, he's finally getting that national, recognition. And one thing about Cal, his buildup has been slow and steady. I like his development. Like you said, he wasn't the highest prospect, but he worked his way to where he is today. And this year has simply been amazing. I mean, nobody, I don't care what you say, who they are, nobody expected this season out of Cal Raleigh, and it's fantastic. And the only word to describe this season, historic. You're talking about Cal Raleigh with 9 multi-home run games, breaking the club record. And he also has 9 multi-home run games. He's breaking the switch hitter record. When you talk about names like Mickey Mantle and Ken Griffey Jr., you're in great company. Cal Raleigh is just, the season is remarkable. What more can you say?
Yeah, and to do it as a catcher, I think is even more, important to note. Like, you've got guys who DH or who play outfield or who play infield. That's great, but to do it as a catcher is just that much harder to do. And he's not only juggling, trying to hit home runs every day. He's also juggling, can I, match up with Logan Gilbert and George Kirby and get them on the right page for every game. And he's juggling the bullpen. How does each bullpen arm work? And so, I don't know. To do it as a catcher is the most impressive thing I can think of.
I would agree. And manager Dan Wilson said as much when he said, we all talk about the home runs. We love the hits. But he said what Cal does behind the plate is like invaluable. That's where his value is. And I think that's what puts him over the top when we talk about MVP versus like an Aaron Judge who's having a great year in his own right. But the fact that Cal Raleigh plays behind that plate and manages this bullpen and the staff and this whole pitching staff, I would say puts him over the top. What do you think about the AL MVP race?
Yeah, I think if I had a vote, I'm giving it to Cal Raleigh. Just simply
is that a homer vote though?
No, I don't think so, because I think we have to look at it from like we just talked about. The defense plays such a big part. I don't know if MVP voters agree necessarily in 2025. They might see those Judge hitting numbers and kind of be like, those pop off the page a little bit more than Cal outside of the home runs, obviously, but. I don't know. From my perspective, it's always going to be he's catching at the same time he's hitting 49, hopefully soon 50 home runs and more. And so when you combine everything that goes into his game, he also has speed.
Yes,
he's also stealing bases this year. So I think he has more stolen bases than Judge right now. Yeah. So it's like you find the little things and you kind of combine it all under one umbrella. And to me, Cal Raleigh gets my vote. Any other season, I think Judge would get my vote. But to see essentially the greatest season by a catcher already, and we've still got a month left, is just like you have to vote for that guy to be MVP, in my opinion.
And where do you see those numbers going? I mean, I predicted at the All-Star break, I said he would get to 50, which I thought was a low number because I could see him kind of slumping. He's one away from 50 right now, which I think is a great number. Like, it's something about those round numbers, you know. So I called 50, but he's obviously going to get that. What number do you think he'll end on, if you had to guess?
I mean, he's technically on pace for 60 now. I don't know if he'll get there because it's just so hard to keep up pace for a whole season like he's been doing. I'm going to just say 56. Yeah, I'll say he hits 7
That's
more.
That's random.
Like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 a week. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing a dart at the dartboard there.
Right.
I'll say 56. We'll come back to this episode when he hits 56, and I'll say, see, I was right. I told you. I knew it the whole time.
Now, I don't want to rain on Cal's parade. You know, historic season, hitting, 48 and 49 this past Sunday against the A's to take the series, 2 out of 3, which the Mariners needed to stop that bleeding. But it was one player that helped stop that bleeding, and it was Brian Wu. I want to give some love to Brian Wu. Now, I think Cal Raleigh, ironically enough, might be the AL MVP, but I wouldn't say he's the team MVP right now. I think that is Brian Wu with over 25 straight starts of 6 innings or more, tying a club record or second in the club record with 25 with Randy Johnson, and he's 2 away from Felix. I mean, Brian Wu has been the steadying force of this staff, and I don't think it's even an argument who has been the staff ace this season. To that, you say what?
I say Cal Raleigh is my team MVP, but I do not want to disagree with where you're saying like the impact of Brian Wu this season has been to this, like what it has been to this team. I mean, you always need, every good team has an ace, and
Right.
you didn't really know who it was going to be going into the season. You had Logan Gilbert ready to go. You didn't know if he was your ace. Luis Castillo's getting older. You didn't know if he was your ace. You kind of needed someone to step up and kind of like take control and say, look, I'm the ace of this team. I think Brian Wu has done that.
Right.
He's your all-star. He's your 6 innings guy every night, every time through the rotation. So it's been nice to see what he's been doing. Hopefully only up from here for Brian Wu. Could you imagine if that guy could throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball one day? It's going to be very dangerous.
And the only question about Brian Wu was his durability. I think he's answered those questions this season. He has been the most durable pitcher on this staff. Now, I have a question for you, and I love Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, definitely. But who you're giving to the Mariners make the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Who's getting your ball first game?
Oh, Brian Wu. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Brian Wu. I mean, once you get to the playoffs, you need the guy that will give you innings, because you don't want your bullpen to come out early and get stretched thin by the time you get to the end of a series. You've got to be thinking down the line, down the stretch, game 2, game 3. Got to get your guy in game 1 that can give you 6 innings. And he's done that all year. He's proven that he can do that. I don't know if he has necessarily, like you said, Logan Gilbert might have better stuff, or George Kirby might have better command on a good day. But I think Brian Wu's the complete package in what you're looking for in a game 1 starter. A guy that can go deep into a game, give you outs, and just get you to that 7th inning where then you can turn to, any guy in the 7th, Brash in the 8th, Munoz in the 9th. Hopefully if the offense has found a way to get the lead by then. But I think Brian Wu gets the game one nod if we make it to a postseason series.
And, let's go back to Cal, because those home runs were massive. They needed those in that game to pick them up. Sunday night, the Mariners just put the beat down to the Oakland Athletics. I'm sorry, not the Oakland Athletics, just the Athletics days. I apologize. But they put the absolute beat down, 11-4. I mean, everybody was putting the ball over the fence. I think the Mariners needed a game like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to go into that game tied in that series 1-1, it felt like a must-win game. After the tough road trip, you go 2-7 on the road trip, and you lose game 2 of that series to the A's. It's like you have to win this series if you want everyone to consider you like a serious playoff contender down the stretch. Like, these are the series that you cannot lose down the stretch, and they've been in those situations over the last couple weeks. I feel like yes. I felt like that game 3 against the Orioles was also a must-win game,
yes.
and they did not win that game. So it's nice to see them kind of take that next step into, okay, these are the series we need to win. Hopefully they can keep it going this week as they play San Diego and then go on another road trip. But specifically with the A's, those are the teams, division rival, under 500. We're in August. We're getting closer to September. You need to win those series. Nice to see how they did it and the way they did it. Like you said, 11-4, the final score.
Yes. I love to see that.
So many hits, like great pitching from Logan Gilbert. Everything clicked at all the right time. You know, it's just so weird with this team. They have those days where the day before they could only score one run in a 2-1 extra inning loss to the same team that they beat 11-4 the next day. And
now the A's do play them tough.
Right, exactly.
They are a gritty team. I actually like that team in the way they play. And the Mariners are now 2 back from the trash Stros. Yes, they are the trash Stros. They're 2 back. Do you think they catch Houston?
I mean, I think it all comes down to those games that they have to play within the division. I mean, you've got, you know, a couple games left against Texas, I believe, and you've got a couple games left against Houston, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to come down to, can they win those games late in the season? Can they pass Houston? I think with Houston's injury bug right now, I think eventually we will catch up to them and pass them, but you just got to keep winning these series that you're supposed to win, and then maybe sneak in a couple series wins that you maybe weren't supposed to win, like coming up against San Diego. San Diego's one of the best teams in the NL. It'd be nice to sneak 2 out of 3 against San Diego.
And that's another tough team, but with the Mariners, it's all about Cal Raleigh for sure. I know I talked about Wu, and let's definitely give Wu some love, but those home runs, 48 and 49 from Cal Raleigh in this past series, great. I think he reaches at least 55. I'm going with the round number. You went with 56?
One more.
We playing the Price is Right. I'm going to go one less to them, Bob, okay? Here we go.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go off the Mariners, and we're going to move on. No. Before we move on, I have a question for you about the Mariners.
Yes.
Start, sit, ferry.
Okay.
Here we go. Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu. Who you're starting, who you sitting, and who you sending on the ferry?
Right now, I think it has to be, I'm giving the start to Brian Wu. I just talked about why he's my game 1 start in the postseason. I feel like I have to start Brian Wu in that spot. And then Gilbert and Kirby, man, those are the 2 guys that are like locked in ever since like they got here into the big league team. I feel like it's those 2 that were like kind of almost expected to be your 1-2 guys, and now they're kind of like maybe your 2-3 behind Wu. So I think it's close, but I think I would bench Gilbert and ferry Kirby right now, just because I don't know. Kirby's been walking some more guys that Saturday game.
He only gave up 1 run.
I know, but the command's a little slipping. I don't know. It's tough. Gilbert and Kirby are like 1 and 2, like yin and yang in my head. So it's very tough. I'll give Gilbert a slight edge right there. And I think it brings up a good question of, you asked me who goes in game 1 of a series. Who goes in game 2? Is it Castillo? Is it Gilbert? Is it Kirby? I mean, that's when you're starting to look like, okay, this is a big decision for Dan Wilson to make possibly in the future.
Earlier in the season when Castillo was hitting his stride, I made the argument that I thought he should get the ball simply because of his experience, and he's been there, done that, and he's known as the Rock that stadium influence. But I think Brian Wu has to get that nickname now because he has been the Rock of this staff all season. So, but if I was a start, sit, ferry, I would start Brian Wu, I would sit George Kirby, and I would ferry Logan Gilbert right now, right now. And I feel the same way you feel. I think they're all so close. Brian Wu has pitched better this season, but I have to send Logan Gilbert on that ferry. Now, I'll send him on a water taxi just to West Seattle, right? We're not going to send him to Vashon. We're not going to send him to Whitby. We want you still to stay close, Logan. Right. But I'm sorry, you're getting on that water taxi to West Seattle. All right?
And they're facing some tough contract decisions with those guys, too. You're going to have to give at least one of those guys a long-term contract if you just want to shore up that pitching staff for the future. You know, if it's going to come down to probably, are you going to give that big contract to Brian Wu or Logan Gilbert or George Kirby or all 3? It's like, what are they going to do with those guys? It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of
seasons. And that's a great point that you make, because I was thinking, like, I thought Logan might have been feeling the pressure of those contract talks. I mean, Cal Raleigh gets his deal, and the question goes directly to Logan, when are you going to get your money? And it was expected that he would be signed this season to a long-term contract, and he hasn't fared so well this season. I mean, injuries have attributed to that, but he hasn't been that same pitcher, say, as last season. So do you think Logan Gilbert may be feeling the effects of, contract talks, I guess you could say?
Certainly. I mean, I think even the best players in the league feel that sometimes, even if they're playing really well. I think that's always something on the back of a guy's mind, definitely.
Now, we came up with a top 5, dead or alive, with a couple more Mariners, all-time Mariners, all right? Now, we're going to compare a list. I'm going to go first. Top 5, dead or alive, all-time Mariners. Here we go, all right? We're going to start at 5, all right? My 5 is Kyle Seager, third baseman, one of the best third basemen in Mariners history. We all know. Now, number 4, this might be controversial, but Alex Rodriguez. He was runner-up in '96 in the MVP. I know we want to forget about him. I know we don't like the way he left to the Rangers, but Alex Rodriguez is still in the top 5, dead or alive, all-time Mariner list. Now, I must add, these are non-pitchers, all right? So number 3, Edgar. Edgar has a statue in front of, T-Mobile Park. You can't go wrong with Edgar. He's helping them hit right now, and he's known for the hitting. Edgar Martinez, number 3. All right, number 2, just got named to the Hall of Fame, Ichiro. All right, when you known by one name, you better be good. And Ichiro was that. He's the hit king. Ichiro Suzuki is number 2 on the Mariners all-time players. All right, now number 1 is only one, the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. It's not even a contest. He was greatness personified, the sweetest swing man, the logo, everything, the hat backwards, you name it, Griffey had it. He is the top 5, dead or alive, all-time Mariner player. What do you think about the list?
It's a good top 5. I think I would switch my 4 and 5. We've
Let's go.
We've got the same top 3. Griffey at 1, Ichiro at 2, Edgar at 3.
That's the big 3.
It's hard to argue against that for sure. I think since, you said no pitchers, I think I would go Felix 4. But since we're going no pitchers, I think number 4, man, it's tough, but I almost want to give it to Cal Raleigh already.
Okay, all right. You going to slide him in there?
He's off to such a hot start in his career. You can tell where he's going, and I'm kind of just almost predicting for the future. This will end up being like our 4th best Mariner of all time. So I'll go Cal Raleigh at 4 right now. I know recency bias, a little early to say it, but I'll go on a limb and say Cal Raleigh at 4.
Okay.
And then I think, I don't know, I like your A-Rod pick because he had such a big part of those early playoff seasons, 96, 97.
People want to forget about him.
Right around there. I like the pick. But like you said, I do have a little bit of I don't think I want to include it in my top 5. You gonna hold it against
him for getting his money?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit? Come on, man.
It's only been 27 years since it happened. I'm still not over it. No, I'll go Jay Buhner. I think just he had an impact on those teams as well, and he's part of the playoff teams, and he always had a big part of swinging for power, and I think he was a clubhouse guy too. And
yes.
When you think of Lou Piniella, you think of Edgar and Jay Buhner and Alex Cora. Those guys are all kind of incorporated with each other, and I think you can't sleep on the impact Jay Buhner has.
No, I agree.
I'll go 5.
I agree, but I had an honorable mention also. I had Julio Rodriguez actually at 6.
Yeah.
Now you wanted to put Cal Raleigh at 4. I think Julio has been a better Mariner so far. He's at least been more consistent. And at 7, then I have Cal coming in. Now, one honorable mention that I'll die on this hill, I think Nelson Cruz has an underrated Mariner career. He only was here 4 years. He hit 163 home runs for the Mariners in that 4-year span. A lot of people forget about Nelson Cruz, but he was a great Mariner. So I have him sneaking in at 8. So, we have Ken at 1, the kid, Ichiro at 2, Edgar at 3, A-Rod at 4, Kyle Seager at 5, Julio Rodriguez at 6, Cal Raleigh, and then Nelson Cruz.
I like the Nelson Cruz pick. You're right. A lot of people do forget about him. He played somewhere else before he got here, and he played somewhere after, but he still feels like a Mariner for life almost. Those 4 years were really electric to watch.
Him and Robinson Cano together, he helped carry that team, and it was some great teams. So that's the end of my top 5, dead or alive, all-time Mariner players. Maybe next week we'll do the pitchers, all right?
There we go.
All right, let's move on. We're going to move on to the Seahawks, right? They played their 3rd preseason game. They lost to the Green Bay Packers 20-7. It was all eyes on Milroe. Jalen Milroe, the 3rd-round rookie draft pick quarterback, the athlete. He started the game, and they said he was going to play all game, and that's what he did. Now, Milroe, the analysis, I guess, from this game was mixed because he put the ball on the ground at least 3 times. He lost 3 fumbles. He didn't throw an interception, and he did have his first touchdown. But what's your, evaluation of what Milroe looked like in the preseason, and what do you expect moving forward with Milroe?
I think it's just your classic case of this is raw talent, and good and bad for that. You have a guy who has the talent. You can see it every once in a while come through on a couple of those plays. We saw it at Alabama. His ability to get those explosive plays, whether it's through the air or on the ground. But then You make that step into the NFL, you've got to find a way to limit turnovers. Like you said, putting the ball on the ground cannot happen as often as it does. And if you let the guy throw, how many interceptions could he throw? You just don't know these things yet. He's a young kid, high ceiling, lots of growth left to make before he can kind of take over a starting role in the NFL, I think. But still a kid that you're kind of glad the Seahawks drafted now. I mean, with what he's shown, his ability to be able to do on a football field. He doesn't even necessarily have to be in there at quarterback. They've said that they're going to use him in different spots,
so
almost like a
Taysom
Hill. Yeah, see him in a package. I mean, why not? He's got the legs. He's got, just the ability. He's got, everything you need in kind of like a Taysom Hill style quarterback. So I'd love to see him get involved in his rookie season, even if it's not under center or in shotgun.
So do you think the Seahawks have their quarterback of the future?
I think so, yeah. I think what they have with Jalen Milroe is a guy that you can lean on in the future, let him develop over the next couple of seasons, and then kind of let him take off, almost like a Jordan Love in Green Bay. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Darnold, your starter right now for sure.
Yeah.
Bring in Milroe for a couple packages, let him develop. Is that the plan?
Yeah, and I think you still have Drew Lock as your backup quarterback for if things go wrong with Darnold as well. And you have three options there. I mean, they're going to probably carry three quarterbacks on the roster. So we're recording before roster cut day, so don't want to make any assumptions. But I think they'll carry those three guys and use Milroe sort of as like a flex guy almost, whereas Drew Lock is kind of your typical backup quarterback. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask that question because what do you think about the roster construction when you carry those three quarterbacks and you also have like four tight ends, you have a fullback down, a great player is going to get cut. Tuesday is supposedly the cut day.
Yeah.
So it's not here yet, but I mean, the Seahawks is about to lose some good players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have that many quarterbacks on the roster and you carry a fullback and you carry all those tight ends, you're going to have to start making tough decisions at running back and wide receiver specifically. We saw in this preseason George Holani, his ability to run the ball well is making him a non-cuttable player, in my opinion. I do not think George Holani gets cut. And I will go back after cut day and see if they did cut him. I will come back on this podcast and apologize personally to every viewer. That's how confident I am in saying George Holani made this team over the course of this preseason. But then, like I said, now you're looking at guys like Damian Martinez and Jacardier Wright. Can those guys make the roster? It's going to be interesting to see. And then again at wide receiver, what do you do with Marquez Valdes-Scantling now that Torrey Horton is here and playing well? You've got Jake Bobo's got to be your number 4 guy, right? Yes. And then MVS doesn't really give you much on special teams. So for the same reasons you want to keep some of those other guys, Ricky White, Cody White, guys like that, special teams always plays a factor. So maybe they might be looking to trade Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Might just be a roster cut. We'll see. It's going to be a lot of interesting decisions to make.
Now, you mentioned the name Jacardier Wright. Mm-hmm. I like him. I like how angry he runs. I like how physical he is. I think he fits the mold and the scheme that, Clint Kubiak wants to, impose his will on other teams in the division and in the NFL. I think you keep a player like him, but I think it will be tough to make this team when you look at the numbers. I agree with George Holani. I definitely think he's should be RB3 for sure. But I always contended, and this has been from the first podcast, that Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker ought to be flip-flopped. I think Zach Charbonnet should be RB1. I think he's earned the right to start, with Ken Walker becoming that change of pace simply because of health. Now, we all know that Ken Walker is the more talented running back. You can see it. He's a game breaker. You put him in, he's one of the only players in the NFL that can, take it to the house from anywhere on the field. And he catches the ball well out of the back. Has proven to be durable. He hits the hole. He's one cut and gone. And I like that style of running. I think it fits better with what Clint Kubiak wants to do. So I promoted Zach Charbonnet about 10 episodes ago to RB1. You're welcome.
There you go. He's your starter at the very least. But I do agree on many of those points. Yeah, I think in today's NFL, you've got to have that dual threat, running back 1, running back 2 that are able to split carries. And because of depth and, keeping your body healthy throughout the year, you see running backs go down all the time. You've got to be able to lean on each other at the running back position. And I think Charbonnet definitely gives you that. It'll be interesting once K9's fully healthy to see who gets more snaps, who gets more touches. But yeah, Charbonnet coming on like really in a big way over the last, over this preseason and the last couple of games of last season. We saw what Zach Charbonnet really can do, and it's an exciting time to watch this offense. I will say that for sure.
Yes, and we had K9 miss 6 games towards the end of the year last season. Charbonnet took that role and ran with it. He gained almost 600 yards last season. Mm-hmm. I expect him to get close to 1,000 this season, if not more. I think those carries will be split pretty evenly. However, I feel like Charbonnet should get the starting nod simply to set the tone. I don't think he's a better running back than Ken Walker, but he's proven himself to be a tougher runner than Ken Walker. So that's the reason why I would start Charbonnet. Mm-hmm. Now back to Milroe. This fumbling problem. I mean, ball security, you are not going to make it in this league if you cannot secure the ball. It's all about the ball, as Pete Carroll used to say. And he has a history. We went back and we looked. He was second in FBS in lost fumbles in his college career at Alabama. So Jalen Milroe, I know he's a work in progress. I understand he's a rookie, but you must secure the ball, J-Mill, if you want to play in this league.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest things, right, in the NFL today. Like, you cannot turn the ball over, or else you're not going to win football games. And I think with Clint Kubiak's offense specifically, the run-heavy offense, he's going to be keeping notes in his head of, like, how many times a guy is fumbling. You're going to not, get as many snaps as maybe you could have if you're fumbling the ball a lot, because he's going to want to run the ball downhill all game, get in your face, and if you're dropping the ball, you're going to start losing snaps.
Right, and you talk about the package they might have had for Jalen Milroe. He actually fumbled on one of those sneaks. Mm-hmm. If you want to put in the tush push or the Seattle, I don't know what they call it, the Seattle shove,
right.
Whatever we calling it these days, if you put that in for J-Mill and you have a package for him and he's fumbling the ball, I don't know what we do with that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point exactly, the brotherly shove, the tush push, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's a play
Do
that.
You got a name for the Seattle version of it? Do you?
I feel unprepared.
I put you on the spot.
I know. I'm trying to think of like something like Emerald City Slide or something like something electric slide or something like that.
The Space Needle shove.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, let's put it out there to y'all. Check us out on Instagram. What should we call a new tush push from the Seahawks? Let's go.
We want to hear that. We'll get some fan interaction on a future episode. We'll see. What do you call the Seattle version of the tush push? There you go. But they have to have a tush push in the first place for us to even name it, right? Like, we haven't seen it as much as other teams do it over the last couple of seasons. I think as fans, we've been clamoring for it. It's like, this is what every other team, when they need half a yard, does so well. And it's like, even under the Pete Carroll days, it was like, he would face a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 and just try to, like, outside zone run. It's like, this doesn't work. You got to just play old school football, go up the middle. So, you're right. If Jalen Milroe's dropping the ball on tush pushes, you're going to have to find some other way to pick up a yard. And if you can't rely on him, then that's going to be a problem. If you can rely on him for positions like that, then he will flourish here in Seattle.
Overall, what are you seeing out of the Seahawks? What do you hope to see in the future this season? I mean, do you think there can be division winners? Do you see a playoff team? What do you see?
I see a division winner here in Seattle. I think Vegas is sleeping on them. I mean, look at the defense. Defense wins championships in this league, and they have one of the top defenses in the league. You've got so many guys returning. You've got Devin Witherspoon. You've got Julian Love. You've got the secondary looks great. The linebackers looked great in the preseason. And then you've got that front line with, DeMarcus Lawrence on there. You've got Byron Murphy coming back. What's not to love about this defense right now?
Yeah, the defense is lights out. I believe the defense is the better side of the ball. It's the offense that's the question.
Yeah.
You're introducing a fullback, and you also have wide receivers in Cooper Kupp and JSN. JSN had a Pro Bowl season last season, but he has to have that same kind of season, if not better this year, to back that up for me to be sold on him. Cooper Kupp, long in the tooth. I mean, he's been injured. A great player for sure. Can he stay healthy? Yeah. And you talk about MVS being a veteran that might be on the cut line.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about wide receiver 3 being a rookie. So the wide receiver core kind of sneaky, kind of worries me a little. I wouldn't say worry. Yeah. I would say concern. So let's pull out the old Puget Sound panic meter on the wide receiver position. Where would you be at on the Puget Sound panic meter on the wide receivers of the Seahawks?
I would go with probably like a 4 out of 10 on the Puget Sound panic meter for wide receivers. I think, like you said, the biggest thing is probably injuries that could derail that wide receiver room in a quick way. Cooper Kupp, like you said, has dealt with injuries in the past. You don't want to see that happen to him. But I think that's the only reason it's up there at a 4 is the injuries. Because if these guys can stay healthy all year, they're going to be good. You lost DK Metcalf in the offseason, but I feel like with the way everyone else plays around him, Cooper Kupp, Torrey Horton, Derek Young, guys like that can kind of pick up the slack and almost like average it out across the umbrella almost. You don't have to rely on DK being your go-getter anymore when you can just go underneath to guys like Torrey Horton and just let him go. It's going to be interesting, I think, because Clint Kubiak is a run-first guy, but they have the wide receiver room needed to make those explosive plays. I'm excited for play action passes specifically.
Okay.
If they can find ways to run the ball really well, I think play action passes this season are going to be where you see guys getting those explosive long balls.
And the Seahawks, one of their Achilles heel and one of my frustrations over the years is them not utilizing the tight end. I said they're the only team that stopped a Hall of Fame career in Jimmy Graham. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
He came here and his Hall of Fame career, went downhill from the point he was traded here. And you talking about a player who was on the arc to be the greatest tight end ever, and that's not hyperbole. The numbers speak that out.
Yeah.
So they have never done well, I would say, with the tight end position as far as pass catching. They've had some okay ones, they've had some good ones, but never a star. Now they feel like they have one in Elijah Arroyo, the rookie. I think the breakout season is gonna be from AJ Barner. I like what I saw out of his rookie season, and I think he'll take a step up this season. Watch out for AJ Barner. What do you feel about the tight end position?
Yeah, I agree on AJ Barner. I mean, that was a guy last season where every once in a while there would be like a crazy catch or like a good touchdown catch, and it was like, who was that? Like, who just made that catch? And then they said AJ Barner. Like a couple times throughout the season, I was like, wait, AJ Barner made that catch?
Yes.
And so he kind of came out of nowhere for me last year, but now it's like you're looking at year 2 and you're like, this is a guy who last year kind of came onto the scene out of nowhere and made those catches where you're like, who just caught that? And it was AJ Barner. It's like we need to see more of that from him this year, and hopefully Clint Kubiak can get the tight ends involved, and it'll be interesting. Like, I'm going to go back to the play action pass. That's where you can get your tight ends involved very easily. You can even do those, sneaky little like, I'm going to block for 2 seconds and then go out and run my route, and get the quarterback moving outside the pocket and find the tight ends down the seams or down the sidelines even. It's going to be fun to watch, for sure.
Now, Austin has the Seahawks, winning the division, making the playoffs. I have them on record as winning 13 games this season.
I don't see why they can't do it.
We had Will Ortner from Chat Sports and Seahawks Today talk about the Seahawks and what he thinks. Check it out.
All right, welcome back to the On the Sidelines podcast. Austin Lane filling in for host Ethan McReynolds this week. Joining me now is the host of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports, Will Ortner, going to be talking about the Seahawks season. Just a couple days away now from starting up the regular season. So, Will, thank you for joining me today. And like I mentioned, the Seahawks preseason wrapped up. We're now on to the regular season. So what's exciting you most about this regular season for the Seahawks? What are you looking forward to most?
Well, I think it's special that you finally have a Seattle offensive line unit that looks competent, a unit that's moving people across the field, a unit that's opening up holes not just for one running back or, needing a special vision or a running style of one running back. I know it's just the preseason, but getting to watch Zabel and Anthony Bradford and Sundell, one a rookie, and then two guys who it looks like are going to win the position battle, Sundell for that center spot and Bradford for that right guard spot that, you kind of came in as hopeful that they'd do well, but they were definite question marks, right? And now you've seen them through 2 preseason games. They didn't really play against Green Bay, but they did some good work in the joint practices. But you saw Charbonnet have big runs. You saw Wright have big runs. You saw Halani obviously have big runs. And even Martinez, after, kind of a sluggish start against the Raiders, he had some big runs. So it felt like the offensive line was opening up big holes for everybody. And they still weren't at 100% yet, right? Because Charles Cross is working his way back from his finger injuries. So to me, it always is going to start in the trenches when it comes to football and football teams. Good teams win because of how well that O-line and D-line play. It feels good that hopefully, fingers crossed, that offensive line isn't going to be your weak point like it has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think we can agree that winning the division is kind of this team's ceiling, but it doesn't seem like Vegas really agrees with us right now. Lowest odds on most betting sites to win the division. Why do you think that is right now?
Well, I want to be careful about what I say and don't say, but maybe somebody really smart who doesn't have any hair in this interview right now has a bet on them to win the NFC West. Like, you can just look at how this offensive line unit is moving. You hear all the reports out of LA. Hey, cool, Matt Stafford's back, right? Cool, he's back. But he missed a bunch of time because he had a back injury. I don't know about you. I'm not in my 30s yet. But usually when you're in your late 30s and you start having back issues, they don't magically go away just because you went into some RV for a couple of days. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, it feels like every wide receiver over there is hurt or is coming back from an injury. And then I never buy Arizona, right? For whatever reason, everyone thinks that Kyler Murray's going to figure it out. And he does for like 2 months. And then the rest of the NFL, they adjust the new tendencies and he doesn't adjust, and neither does his offense over in Arizona. So to me, I think it's a bit ridiculous where Vegas has Seattle. It feels like for whatever reason, people think that Sam Darnold is a downgrade from Geno. Honestly, I think they're basically the same. But now you're telling me I'm getting a better offensive coordinator. I'm getting a better product from my offensive coordinator using a system that is built on the run game, but then mirrors the passing game to that. And what I mean is when you run the football so effectively and you run it in a certain style, when you run play action pass off that, defenses bite on it because they expect you to run the ball because you've been running the ball well. Unfortunately, in Ryan Grubb's offense, it worked great in college because in college, if you have better athletes, just like that UW team did 2 years before, and a great quarterback, man, you can chuck it all over the place and it doesn't matter because your guys are going to win one-on-one matchups. In the NFL, that talent level is so even for the most part that you need to use your scheme at times to open things up for other players. And Grubb's offense didn't run the ball enough, so when they ran play action pass, no one bid on it, right? The defense almost bit more on draws because they were just so expecting Seattle to pass the ball because they did it 50 times a game. That was open. When it came to running the ball and play action pass, it was never really open because no one believed Seattle would run the ball. Clint Kubiak's made it pretty clear they are going to run the football. They're going to run the football a lot, and they're going to run the football extremely well. That's going to open things up for Sam Darnold and open up the passing attack too. I'm very excited for what the Seahawks have going, and I don't know what Vegas is thinking by having them right now as the longest odds to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback, you get rid of your star wideout in DK Metcalf. It kind of feels like it should be a rebuilding year, but it almost doesn't feel like that way. Do you think it's kind of like a smoke screen for Vegas right now, and they're sort of looking at it on paper and saying, wow, they've got a bunch of new faces, but maybe we here in Seattle know, like, wait, this team is actually good. Like, if you watched this team play last year, and if they can improve upon what they did last year, like, I think, like I said earlier, the winning the division's probably the ceiling for this team, right?
Yeah, I do think that this is a team that can win the division. I don't know that they necessarily should have been the top favorite from Vegas, but them being last with, I think last time I looked, they were around, plus 500, plus 600 at one point. Like, that's ridiculous. They should be probably the second team when it comes to winning the division. I think what a lot of people look at is that Rams team at the end of the year. And look, they gave Philly a real run for their money. If someone slides the right way and blocks Jalen Carter, Stafford has a nice, easy throw to Higbee, and they win that game. And that's a team that ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. But in my eyes, I don't feel like Matt Stafford, go back and look at the stats, was all that great last year. Like, it feels like he took a step back. Now you're telling me that he's got back issues. He had arm issues a couple years ago where, I get it. He's 37. He doesn't necessarily need training camp. But at some point, those injuries stack up. He's taken a lot of hits. He is old for an NFL football player. I feel like that is going to weigh down some of what the Rams are doing. Now, I do like their defense. I think that they're young, but I think you're overvaluing what that offense can do. When I look at San Francisco, you got a lot of guys that at that wide receiver room that are unproven right now because of all the injuries. Like, Ayuk's still banged up. They're saying that Jennings is going to be back by week 1. Hasn't really participated in training camp, so I'll see it when I believe it. It feels like every time I look at X, their 4th or 5th receiver or the person that they're expecting to be that keeps getting hurt. And again, I don't understand what we are buying when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals. It's the same team. We've seen it before. We know what they're going to do. They'll have a couple impressive wins at the beginning of the year, and then they're going to fall off. It's just what Arizona does. So I feel like when Vegas looks at this Seahawks team, again, I don't understand why Geno Smith is a clear upgrade over Sam Darnold. In my eyes, they're pretty much the same person, but I'd make the argument that with the new revamped offense and how you're going to try and have more of a 60-40 split with running the football 60% of the time, passing the football 40%, I think that sets up better for Darnold. Darnold proved last year in Minnesota that when he has time, he can lead a competent offense. And let's not forget, I know the last 2 games didn't go his way. He was the guy that we were talking about as an MVP candidate. A long shot, but there was mention of Sam Darnold and the MVP in the same sentence. But because he had 2 bad weeks at the end of the year, now we're talking about him like he's some scrub, right? And I just don't agree with that. So I think that Vegas isn't valuing Seattle's new revamped offense, and they're overvaluing some of the success that these other teams in the division have had in the past and not really taking a look at what they are today. They're getting a little bit of added bonuses because of who they were 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah, I totally understand having the 49ers and Rams over the Seahawks on the betting line odds, but the Cardinals definitely a surprising one there, I think. So we've talked about the offense, new, hopefully refreshing after their obvious struggles in the past. Let's talk about the defense. Bunch of returning guys on defense. This is a team that looked good last year on defense. Do you think this team can be up there in the upper echelon of defenses in this league overall? I mean, top 2, top 3, maybe even top 1 in the league.
Yeah, well, I think Mike Macdonald has proven, not just at Baltimore, but also down at Michigan, which, hey, I get it, it's college football, it's still a high level of college football, that he's a great defensive coordinator. And last year, in his first year in Seattle, he brought in a crew of dudes that he thought were going to help build this team and be key members of this team in the defense that he wanted to run. And some of those guys clearly did not work out. So what did he do? He cut bait early, got rid of him, got him out of there, brought in a guy like Ernest Jones IV to come in and be your captain of that defense. Wasn't afraid to let Knight, the rookie linebacker, come in and start making plays. Leonard Williams was a great player. He took a step forward last year in this defense. I really hope that Murphy is going to take a step forward as well now that he has a full training camp with the team, going through the roster. Everyone says the biggest jump is from that first year to the second year. He looks completely different. Mafe did well in this system. Hall did well in this system. I would hope that Uchenna Nwosu, as he's working his way back off the PUP list, that, he's able to have a full season healthy, because when he did in 2022, he showed what a wrecking ball he can be. Like, you just look at this defense from top to bottom, and I like what I've seen from the people who've already been in the system, just fingers crossed on keeping guys healthy. And then with the rookies, I really do think the sky is the limit. You have a guy like Nick Emanwari that right now it kind of looks like they're using him in this like nickel package hybrid thing so they can get him, right outside of that linebacker box so he can still insert himself into the run, but use his athleticism as a pass defender. He can still be in coverage against like a tight end or an inside slot receiver. I love what Julian Love has been doing, no pun intended, coming up, making a big 4th down stop against the Kansas City Chiefs, seeing what was going to happen and making the read and making the play. Again, I understand that it's preseason. It's still the football IQ to see this is what they like to run in this formation in this system, and I'm going to come in and make a play. So I just look at this defense and the strides that they were able to make at the halfway point to the end of the year. That's going to be the key for most people to look at, because it's a different defense after the halfway point last year. I trust Mike Macdonald, and I trust that the players that were brought in that are new are going to keep excelling and keep growing in this defense. I really like what you.
Okay, once again, talking with Will Ortner, host of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. So with the regular season on the horizon now, what are some of the biggest games on the schedule you think this year?
Oh, dude, week 1, San Francisco. Let's go. Let's get it rocking and rolling early. I want to see the pads flying around. Look, San Francisco, I understand that they had a down year last year. I think that they're not as good as maybe Vegas might think, maybe some of the other experts think. It's still an important game, and honestly, I think after the loss to the Giants last year, early on, game 4, game 5, whatever that was, that proves to everyone that these games early really do matter, because a stupid loss to the Giants ended up being what costed you a chance to get into the playoffs. You're the only team since the NFL has expanded to 7 teams getting in the playoffs to have double-digit wins and not get in. You won 10 games last year. Every other team that's won 10 games since the NFL went to 7 playoff teams has gotten into the playoffs except for you. So if you can go in and kind of smack the 49ers around, I think that sets a tone for what's going to be going on the rest of the year. And unfortunately, I do believe a little bit in some of the old cliches, but it's one game at a time, right? And when you have such a big game like a, in division game that early, I don't know that I've really looked too far past that. Like, I'd like to talk about the Commanders game. I know that's going to be a big deal. I think that Jaden Daniels has clearly shown that he's one of the best QBs in the league. I can't take my eyes off his games when he's out on the field. He's just so much fun to watch. But I don't know what the team is going to be like. I think that game's middle to end of October. So many different injuries, so many different things could progress or happen for both teams that I don't want to jump ahead. Right now, I'm focused on San Francisco. I know the rest of those players are once they get through the cut days, and, fingers crossed for those guys who are right on that bubble. Hopefully they get what they want, right? And Seattle's able to build the best team with the 53-man roster spots that they have. But I cannot wait, man. We got 14 days right now from when we're recording. Maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be obviously a little bit closer. I'm fired up. I hope they are too. I hope the rest of the 12s are. It's going to be such a great opener. Yeah, it's a banger.
It's an exciting time to be a Seahawks fan for sure going into this season. All right, let's do some early predictions here. Who's your prediction for team MVP, breakout star, and rookie of the year this year?
Okay, so let's go with team MVP. If this team's going to do well, it's going to be based on that offensive line, and I think if they can keep everybody upright and keep Sam Darnold upright, you're going to hear a lot of high praise for Gray Zabel. Now, no lineman's ever really going to get, team MVP, player MVP. So I would love to say, hey, look, most people are going to say it's Sam Darnold if the season goes the way I want it to go, just because he's going to be, your captain. He's going to be your quarterback, spearheading everything. But I do believe that Zabel and what he's shown in the preseason, PFF grade-wise, Brian Baldinger, Jeff Schwartz, they've all done videos on how Gray Zabel has just come in and started dominating right from the preseason. When you, at that left guard position, are able to get reaches on defensive ends, it helps your running back not only get to the outside, but it means that other teams are going to have to start playing more guys in the box. If you have to add more guys in the box, that leaves more one-on-one matchups for wide receivers. I don't know about you. If I ever have Cooper Kupp in a one-on-one matchup, or I have Jackson Smith and Jigma in a one-on-one matchup, I would hope that Sam Darnold's throwing them a 50-50 ball, because it isn't 50-50 with those two guys. But that's all going to be because of how this offensive line plays. And I really do think that Gray Zabel is going to be the MVP in the fact that he pushes them forward and pushes them to greater heights. Now, when it comes to a breakout player, to me, I don't know if it's totally fair to say that it's Zach Charbonnet, but I think that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are going to move to more of a splitting carries role. I haven't fully agreed yet with some of the other experts that are saying give it all to Charbonnet. In my eyes, in today's NFL, you need to have two running backs that are getting about 50% of the carries, unless you have a true blue Saquon Barkley, right? Like, if Saquon's having a career year like he did last year, of course, man, give him the ball as many times as possible. Derrick Henry a couple times when he was down in Tennessee, of course, man, give him the ball as much as possible. But when it comes to more of your traditional running back style, or the new age of running back style, I think Detroit is a perfect example. They have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, two running backs that on most teams in the NFL are starters. So what do? They make sure that they get equal touches. When they need to have more of a bruising back, they use Montgomery. When they want to get it onto the outside, or use the running back in the pass-catching game, they get the ball out to Gibbs. It's kept both of those running backs healthy through the entire year, but it also gives defenses two different things to be worried about and to be ready to go for. I think that Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker can be that, and because he's getting more touches, that would lead to Zach Charbonnet being a breakout. You've seen it all training camp long. It feels like every single time I read a report about how a practice went, it's like, hey, these guys did something good. Oh, and Zach Charbonnet had a big run. Oh, these players did something well today. By the way, Zach Charbonnet had two big pass catches in this one. So to me, Zach Charbonnet, he's going to be your breakout. And then because I already picked Zabel for the MVP, and again, I'm always going to be biased towards my fat boys, I'm going to go with Torrey Horton. I think that there's a lot that this guy can do. He's going to be invaluable. When you have a guy that is that wiggly, that loose, like when he gets the ball on punt return, I don't know if you realize this or if you saw this, but against the Las Vegas Raiders, he made like four guys miss and gained 5 yards. That never happens. If you make 4 guys miss, you're gaining 20. So one, it shows how well of a coverage job that the Raiders had, but it also shows his athleticism and his ability to break free. He was highly targeted in that game as well. Had 7 targets, 3 catches, ended up getting in the end zone on 1. Obviously, I'd like to see him come down with more catches than just 3 if you're going to be targeted 7 times. That's not all on him. It's also first game action for him. And look, I know Drew Lock's a veteran. It's still first preseason game action, it's going to look a little sloppy from time to time. I do think that Horton is going to be a breakout player. Don't be shocked if it comes on late. Remember Jackson Smith and Jigba's rookie year. It took him a little bit to get going, but once he got going, it was like an avalanche, man. The kid just got better and better, more catches, more touches, more big plays. I think Torrey Horton could be the same way.
Yeah, JSN, Horton, those two certainly seeming like the future of the wide receiver room there in Seattle, and I should have known, asking the former offensive lineman who's going to be a team MVP, and he says the offensive lineman. Will Ortner, former Central Washington University offensive lineman there, picking an O lineman to be team MVP for the Seahawks this year. But let's go to your breakout star. You said Zach Charbonnet, as long as it's balanced with Ken Walker, and we were going to talk fantasy football a little bit here, and the first question I had, that's a nice segue into this, is should we be drafting Ken Walker or Zach Charbonnet first if we got both of those guys on the board?
Yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong with either one of them. Right now, I might lean towards Charbonnet just because he's been healthy through all of training camp. As someone who's also had a sore foot or two, maybe not quite the extent that Kenneth Walker had, maybe a greater extent. No one's really been clear what the injury is other than it's just a sore foot. I would say that I would lean towards Charbonnet. Feet are hard to really recover from because you don't get the same amount of blood flow as you would to other body parts. So there are times where, hey, that's a sore foot. It's a 4 to 6 week injury. Usually kind of assume it's going to take the 6 weeks, right, to be 100% fully ready to go. Now, that's not saying that I don't think that Kenneth Walker is going to be ready to go and firing on all cylinders. I just think that the Bengals have shown us throughout the last couple of years that you do need those training camp reps and you need those preseason reps. The Bengals have started the season slow the last 2 years. Guess what they haven't done? They haven't played their starters in preseason games. And I think it shows weeks 1 and weeks 2 because their guys aren't just quite ready for prime time yet. And then they get going and the season usually goes well for them as long as there isn't an injury or if their defense can stop a nosebleed every once in a while. So to me, I would lean towards Charbonnet early because he's gotten the reps. Remember, it is a new system. And when you're in a new system, things can take a while to get used to understand, hey, I know it's, an inside zone scheme, but the way that we kind of formation it, the way defenses are going to, try and attack it, it might open up this way, it might open up that way. You just need reps and reps and reps. Football is one of those sports where the more that you do, the better you become. And right now, the guy who's been doing more because he's been healthy has been Charbonnet. That would be my initial lean.
Well, when it comes to drafts as a whole, who's the first Seahawks player you're projecting to come off people's boards this year?
If it's PPR, it's got to be JSN. It has to be. He's going to catch the ball a lot. Expect him to be over 1,000-yard receiver if he's healthy this entire year. And the beauty of this Kubiak system is, while, yes, they are going to run the football more, they still find a way to get the ball in their most electric playmakers' hands. And you have a guy in Jackson Smith and Jigba that not only can be an outside receiver and can run that vertical route, he can run that deep post, he can also line up in the slot. And when you have a receiver that's lining up in the slot, sometimes you get better matchups because for whatever reason, the way the defense is set up, you might have a safety that ends up on him. Maybe you have a nickel that JSN can use his superior route running abilities to get himself open. Sometimes, hey, you might even get lucky in a zone. Like JSN has proven he knows where to sit down in the open spots. In my eyes, it's JSN. Especially if you're in a PPR league, you're going to get points for every single catch that he gets. I would expect this guy to be a 5, 6, 7 catch guy a game. So minimum, you're getting 6 points off of that. We've seen his ability to make guys miss and have some good yards after the catch. That's where I'd go, JSN.
All right, so obviously it's dependent on how many teams you're in your league and how many roster spots you got, but Sam Darnold, is he getting drafted this year? And if so, where? And if not, why not?
He's a guy to me that I would like on my roster. I don't know that I want him as my starter on my roster right away. Now, my reasoning for that is, again, understand what the system is. This Seahawks team wants to run the football. Mike McDonald, with some of his hats, has made it pretty clear he wants to run the you-know-what out of the football. And so he's going to have less attempts, I think, at times. And there are going to be games where Seattle might win and he has 150 yards, and you're going to hear a lot of praise from Kubiak and from McDonald. He's going to be asked to be a game manager. Now, I know that sounds like I'm saying a dirty word, but it really isn't in this sense. Go out there and control what you can control. Don't turn the ball over. Trust that your defense is going to be strong, and then make the most of your opportunities. In some games, you are going to need to throw for 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. In some games, they're going to run the ball so efficiently and effectively that he doesn't need to do as much. So in my eyes, yes, I would like him on my roster, but he's probably a late round pick for me, especially if it's, like an 8 or 10 team league. Now, if you get into the 12, 14, 16 team leagues, congratulations to you. You have a lot of friends, but also, understand that there's going to be more quarterbacks picked, and then I would have him as a quality backup on my roster. I don't know that I would have him as a starter.
All right, fantasy season also right around the corner, as is the regular season. So always a fun time to be looking at where to pick players and keeping an eye on them throughout every week. But let's go back to the Seahawks just for a second. Never too early to look ahead to the end of the year. What do you think? Every team wants to win the Super Bowl, right? That's their goal at the beginning of the year. For most teams, it's something that likely won't happen, and I think they know that on the inside. But with the Seahawks, what do you think would be considered a successful season? Do they need to just make it to the postseason? Do they need to win a postseason game, or is it Super Bowl or bust for this team?
You need to get to the playoffs. I think if you don't get to the playoffs, it's a disappointment. I'm not going to stand up here and bang on the table and say if you make it as a wild card team, that's a disappointment, as opposed to making it as a division winner. In my eyes, I don't care if you're the first team that makes the playoffs. I don't care if you're the last team that makes the playoffs, but you need to make the freaking playoffs. And then from there, everything is icing on the cake. You win a game, congratulations, that's awesome. If you win your division and you get to host the game, even better, right? That's all icing on the cake to me. This is a team that needs to be in the playoffs. And, sitting here of sound mind right now, I'm going to tell you that that's all that matters. Now, if you talk to me on a Friday, Saturday night when maybe I'm not of sound mind, maybe I have a different answer where I'm saying, I'm thinking conference finals. Maybe I'm thinking Super Bowl, right? That's probably not the case of where this team is at right now, but this is a playoff team, and it should be a playoff team if they continue to progress. Of course, injuries can happen that could change something, derail something. Maybe there's something that we're missing, and we have another freak season where 3 teams in the NFC North have 10 wins or more. That could 100% happen in a couple of the different divisions, depending on who pops and who doesn't. But in my eyes, you need to be a playoff team, and then anything after that, everyone should just be excited for.
All right, once again, talking with Will Ortner, host of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Will, I know we're talking about Seahawks because you're the host of Seahawks Today, but you grew up in the Pacific Northwest, lifelong Mariners fan. It's kind of hard not to talk about them right now as the calendar nears September and the scary word, October. I know I don't want to say it when I'm talking about the Mariners, but October is also right around the corner. So how are you feeling about the Mariners right now?
I love everything that's going on right now. I feel like you're starting to get some of your pitching staff back. Bryce Miller's making his way back. Kirby from some early season struggles because, again, he missed a lot of his spring training. Feels like he's getting back where he needs to be. And look, I'll call a spade right now. If we're not giving the AL MVP to the big dumper, what are we doing? You're having a historic year offensively from a catcher that plays a position that, look, you don't expect a lot from them offensively, and he might be the best offensive player in the league right now. Then you're going to go in and throw the fact that he's one of the best defensive players in a position that's known for great defense. Julio's starting to catch fire. He's coming along well. Randy Arozarena, I feel like he's much like Klay Thompson, essentially. And I know it's apples to oranges, but when Klay Thompson gets hot, man, he's not going to miss from 3. When Randy Arozarena's hot, that guy's going to hit a couple bombs and have a couple extra base hits, a stolen base here or there, and it seems to just kind of come in waves, and he's starting to get hot again. I really like that. Naylor's been a great addition. When you have your first baseman stealing bases out there, that's always a plus, right? Eugenio, getting him back with the ball club, him over at third. I just love it. I love what this Mariners team is doing. And for me, with this type of starting pitching staff, I didn't even get to mention Gilbert or Wu, who have been fantastic as well. If you can get into the postseason, then it's just chip in a chair. Anything can happen. You just got to be hot at the right moment. So to me, right now, I love everything that they're doing. I would love nothing more than Seattle to take on Houston in that first round so I can go to a couple of my new coworkers and let them know, hey, my team's better than yours. So hopefully everything keeps rolling for the Mariners. I've been ecstatic. I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We're talking about postseason baseball in Seattle, and it's an electric time when it's here. They haven't been back for a couple seasons, but you'd like to see them get clicking on everything all at once. But if the team wants to get back to meaningful October baseball, what's the one thing they've got to do well down the stretch?
Continue to hit. In my eyes, just continue to hit. What's always been the bugaboo for Seattle, it's their hitting ability. I feel like this year, Dipoto went out and actually made moves, right? Like he went swinging. He found Eugenio. He found Naylor, and he brought them in. Last year, he took a little swing. Well, I guess I should say he hit a very nice extra base hit going to get Randy Arozarena. So in the last 2 years, you've made 3 moves to go get 3 primetime bats. They need to show up. Cal Raleigh needs to continue to show up. Julio has shown that as the weather gets hotter, he plays better. Every single year, it feels like he starts slow, and then right around June, it starts picking up, and he starts rolling. He did that again this year. The bats need to come alive. We can't have another 18-inning game where you score, no runs? 1 run? I can't remember what they did in that one. It was so long ago, and that game took like 5 years off of my life, so I'll probably die at 65 now and not 70. But they need to keep hitting. They need to keep hitting. The pitching staff is there. Keep hitting.
All right, you've got Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez as statues outside the stadium. You got a Dave Niehaus statue inside T-Mobile Park. Who gets the statue built if they win the World Series this year?
If they win the series this year, oh, dude, you're getting a big dumper statue. Yeah. You might just get his dumper on the statue. No face, no nothing. It'll just be lower half, which would be the funniest and most electric statue of all time. But, yes, it has to be Cal Raleigh. He's going to be the AL MVP, or at least he should be the AL MVP. He's having a historic year. No one has ever hit more home runs as a catcher that he is. He's going to hit 50. I think there's an outside shot at him getting to 60 home runs. He's been everything you could ask for and more. Dude, if they do it all, it's going to be because of him. He also hits in the clutch. Don't forget that. So if they win it all, I guarantee he's going to have a couple big hits in the clutch moments. It's got to be Cal Raleigh.
All right, Will Ortner, host of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports, joining us for the On the Sidelines podcast today. Will, where can we keep up with your stuff as the season gets closer and closer to hitting the regular season mark?
Yeah, well, social media is nice and easy for me. It's just Will Ortner, all lowercase. That's going to be the same on X or Twitter, whatever you prefer to call it, and on Instagram. I'm going to be tweeting out, talking about the Seahawks daily. I will also tweet out funny pictures of offensive linemen drinking beer on the sidelines. So don't forget, if you like that type of content, you can come and subscribe there. Head over to the YouTube as well. Seahawks Today. Every single day, I'm going to have video content coming out for you about your Seattle Seahawks. Austin, man, I appreciate you having me on. Let me catch up and plug the Seahawks. I love talking ball.
I love talking ball with you as well, man. Will, thanks for joining us today. And go Hawks, go Mariners. Can't wait to chat soon about hopefully their successes down the stretch for the Mariners and across the regular season with the Seahawks. So thanks for joining the podcast today.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Go Hawks, go Mariners.
All right. And we want to thank Will Ortner from Seahawks Today, Chat Sports, for, blessing us on the show. Let's move on. We're going to go ahead to Sounders now. Austin, they dispatched the Sporting KC on Sunday night, 5-2. Danny, my guy, Danny boy. I heard Coach Metzer call him the Messiah. They call him the Moose.
I love that.
3 goals, his first MLS hat trick. That brings him to 15 goals across all competitions. This guy is on fire right now. They win their MLS match. Last week they won the Leagues Cup. This Wednesday they'll be playing in a semifinal of the Leagues Cup, and it's a Final Four, all MLS Final Four for the Leagues Cup. What do you think about the Sounders and where they are today and where they'll go?
Yeah, I think this is a fun team to watch right now. I think that's the biggest thing to focus on. Is there a team that is fun to watch play soccer right now? You've got guys scoring 3 goals in a game. You've got hat tricks going left and right. You got Danny Musovski, finding the back of the net. You've got the local UW talent, Kalani Kosirienzi, finding the back of the net in the Sporting KC win as well. And, going to a Sounders match is so fun, and like when they're playing ball like this right now, it just makes me want to go to a match even more.
Yes, and I mean, Coach Smetzer, he flexed the depth of this roster. He put, I think do you call it tweeting anymore? I put on X, okay? All right. I went ahead and tweeted. I said, I love this young lineup. They were on fire from the very beginning. That you get the energy, the pace. They were putting the ball in the back of the net. They gave up a couple, but they just overwhelmed Sporting KC when I watched this match. And Danny, like I said, a couple weeks ago, it was a question posed to Coach Schmetzer. It was about the competition at keeper, with Stephen Fry making his way back from a concussion and being injured, and Andrew Thomas playing so well. And Coach Schmetzer said, he basically said, hey, I don't think it's a competition right now, but it's at least a conversation. And I want to pose that question to you, but differently, because is there any conversation that Danny Musovski is the top striker on this team and he should remain in this lineup? I don't care who comes back. Or do you feel another way?
I think, Danny Musovski's earned that starting spot. Look at the hat trick against Sporting KC. Like, we saw it right there. Electric player, finds a way to get open, especially in the box. We saw a couple of those plays where, they're running down the sideline, and then you get Danny Musovski finds that open space in the box. It's fun to watch, and he's a great player, and I think he's kind of earned that starting spot for sure up top.
Yeah, a lot of people saying like Jordan Morris, and he's an all-time great sounder. I understand. Will get his spot back when he returns from injury, and I beg to differ. Of course, you work him in the lineup. He's one of your better players, definitely, but I think Danny has earned the right to stay in that lineup. And he recovered from a horrible, red card. He got, sent off in the League's Cup. They won the game, so I guess it didn't matter. And he recovered with a hat trick. He answered the bell right now. I love that kind of moxie from him, the attitude, no nonsense, put the ball in the back of the net. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to love Jordan Morris for what he's done for sure. But I think you're right. There is a conversation to be had about who gets the start up top. Who's finding the net better, basically, and I think right now you just got to go with the hot foot and Musovski. I don't necessarily think it's like a changing of the guard. Like, you can still split their time up a little bit, but I think right now you just got to go with the hot foot.
Well, it might be a changing of the guard and keeper, like we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Andrew Thomas. I watched that League's Cup game where they went to the PKs, and Andrew Thomas, he shut it down. He told the crowd what he was going to do, and he turned around and did it. I was so excited when I was watching this match because I loved the talk, and then he walked it. Andrew Thomas, the Sounders may have found their keeper of the future, and maybe even now.
Yeah, the same thing we just talked about with Jordan Morski, you can talk about with Stephen Fry, like one of those club legends that it's almost sad in a way for them to get hurt and then have the other guy fill in for them and play so well that you have to start having those conversations about like who's going to get the start at this spot when the injured player comes back. But it's a good problem to have. I will say that. Brian Schmetzer being in a tough position on like who to start at striker and at goalkeeper is a great spot to be in, and that just shows like you have the depth there that can be needed for a deep run in the playoffs, and hopefully this team can win the League's Cup. That would be cool to see, and then as we get closer to the MLS playoffs, hopefully they can make another deep run in the MLS playoffs.
Yes, and we talked about it already, about the depth of this roster. That's what I love. Mm-hmm. The young players also, the homegrown talent. Coach Smetzer made 8 changes from his previous lineup in the League's Cup that we was talking about in this past game against Sporting KC. 8 changes. It was a who's who of who was in the game. They answered the bell 5-2. I love to see the goals. The Sounders, they're looking up. I think they're in like 4th or 5th place right now.
Right around there.
Moving up. Do you think they can win an MLS Cup?
I don't see why not. They certainly have the talent to do it and the depth, like we've been talking about, the depth to do it. You need that, especially when we get late in the season. Put your best starting 11 on the pitch every night, and you will find ways to win matches. And I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to Brian Schmetzer. He's, the guy who's been there, done that. He's been here in Seattle to win a couple of those MLS titles before. He knows what it takes to win an MLS title, and I think he's got the pieces to once again do it this season.
Yes, I think it's a great point because Brian Schmetzer, I think he's either one of or the longest tenured coach in the MLS. He's been doing it for a long time. I love the moves he make. I think I was critical a little because I thought he wasn't playing his best players, but he's been pacing his team almost perfectly through all these competitions. You had Leagues Cup, you had Club World Cup, and I jump off the ledge sometimes, I must admit, but I think Coach Schmetzer, he's had a steady hand on this club and he knows what buttons to push. The move to the left side, moving Pedro over there, and then all of a sudden De La Vega starts to explode. I think that was a master stroke. Hats off to Coach Schmetzer. We don't say it enough. A great coach, one of the better coaches in this market on any team.
Definitely. For everything that he's done and been able to do here in Seattle, he's definitely deserving of recognition always, for everything he's done. And if he takes them back to the MLS Cup final and wins it this year again, build the statue immediately.
Okay, all right, you ready? You ready for the statue?
I'm ready for the statue. He's going down as the greatest Sounders coach of all time, I think already, with what they've already done with him. But if they win an MLS Cup this year, Jesus, man, the guy has done it all multiple times at that point.
Now, I'm going to pose a question to you that I posed last week to Ethan, our host. Statue. The Seahawks don't have one statue.
I know.
One player.
It's weird.
Now we talking about statues because they just erected one for Sue Bird. Storm all-time great. Definitely deserving. Seahawks. Do you think they should have a statue? Who would be that first player?
That's really tough to say. That's a tough one. You got to think about the Super Bowl winning team.
Okay.
It has to have something to do with that, whether it's Pete Carroll for leading that team there, whether it's Richard Sherman for all the impact plays he had to get there, including the greatest play in Seahawks history, the tip against the 49ers.
Sorry, Crabtree.
You can make that a statue. Honestly, you can make the tip a statue.
Yes.
And I think fans would be just okay with that. You could give it to Bobby Wagner, just being that sort of nucleus of those defenses those years. You could give it to Russell Wilson, even though maybe, we'll see how the end of his Seahawks tenure went.
Do you feel a little bit like
it feels like a Kyle Seager? It feels like a Kyle Seager or A-Rod, right? It's like the end might have ruined everything that came before that.
Okay, all right. Now we had a debate earlier in the season. Now I'm gonna pose that question.
Yeah.
Russell, Ring of Honor.
Yes.
That day, does he get cheered or booed?
He gets cheered. I think by the time he goes to the Ring of Honor, I think fans here will be able to recognize the greatness that Russell Wilson was and brought here to Seattle. He brought us our first Super Bowl championship ever. He came out of nowhere. He was that underdog kid out of Wisconsin, drafted in the 3rd round, won preseason, all it took to become the starting quarterback. I think the joy that Russell Wilson brought us as fans will override any of the negative feelings we had about him or may have had about him towards the end.
He's a shoo-in for the Ring of Honor, you would say.
I think so, yeah. You can't not give that guy Ring of Honor status. He's the quarterback that won you your first Super Bowl.
I agree.
A lot of people will say, well, the defense won it. Well, it's you still need a quarterback to help you get over the edge, right? And he had everything that we needed for him to do, especially under Pete Carroll. He was the perfect Pete Carroll quarterback early on in his career.
All right, I like you, Austin. I agree. We got to have you back.
I feel like I'm too optimistic. We've got the Mariners are going to win the division.
Right.
Seahawks are going to win the division. Sounders are going to win the MLS Cup. Wait, we need a team to do bad so the other ones can do good, right? Isn't that how being a Seattle sports fan works?
No, not really. I think this is our year. I think this is Seattle's year. I am the same way. I've been banging the table all season about championships. And I can taste it. In 2013 when the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl, that whole season felt special. You can feel it in the air. It was palpable, as far as the movement, the Blue Friday, the team winning, pulling out, improbable wins, some of Dangerous's plays that he was pulling out, So I think the same can be said about the Mariners, although they've had their dips. I feel like this season still feels special, and the Sounders have been there all season long. So I do feel like championship or bust for all of our teams this season. Definitely.
There's nothing wrong with getting your hopes up, right? We've been here and done that. We've seen it all here in Seattle. We've seen a 116 win baseball team lose in the ALCS. We've seen a 7-9 Seahawks team win a wild card and have a beastquake run in the process. We've seen almost everything there is to see here in Seattle. The one thing we haven't seen, a World Series game.
And a statue in front of Lumen of a Seahawks player. Now, let's go back to that because I think it's definitely a no-brainer. It's Steve Largent. You have to start with Largent. So you might want to start with 2 statues. Maybe, and you talked about the tip. That's the moment, definitely, that needs to have a statue, is the tip. For sure, but the first statue that you want to put in front of Lumen Field to honor a Seahawk, it has to go to Largent. Okay. I just feel that way. I know I'm a little older than most people, so a lot of people don't know what Largent did, and when they look through the numbers, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He had great numbers, but they don't compare to the game today. Yeah. But in that era, he was one of the better wide receivers, and his name is synonymous with the Seahawks. When you say Seahawks, I think immediately Largent, and then you might go to LOB after that, for sure. But definitely his name is synonymous with Seattle, and he deserves and earned a statue in front of Lumen. So Seahawks, let's get on it.
Let's do it. I mean, why do you think he doesn't have a statue yet? Is it because they didn't really go to the Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl with him?
I have no idea.
Individually, you're totally right. He deserves a statue, but is it because the team itself was just not in that top 1, 2, or 3 teams in the league every season?
I'm flummoxed. I don't know because I don't know what earns you a statue. I don't know the criteria, right? Because if you're just talking about Super Bowls, you've taken a lot of history before that, away. You had Cortez Kennedy, who was a defensive MVP and a Hall of Famer in his own right. Kenny Easley, he was a great player. So you have Hall of Famers in the history of the Seahawks. So I don't know what earns you a statue or not. I don't know the criteria. Yeah. I know they came out with their top 50 players this past preseason. Mm-hmm. So they recognize them, but now it's time to immortalize them.
It is a little odd that they don't have a statue. They've been around for 45 to 50 years, somewhere in that range. And I mean, you got the Mariners have been around that long. They've got 3 statues now. They've got Edgar, Griffey, and Dave Niehaus, on the inside of the stadium. So, and then they're building the Ichiro statue. So, it is a little weird, but let's build a Largent statue outside of Lumen. I agree.
This was a debate last year on the subject of statues was about Randy Johnson. Now next year, I think he'll be going for the Ring of Honor here or the Hall of Fame, or he'll be honored next season here in Seattle. Do you put a statue up for Randy Johnson?
I don't know. See, that's a tough one because he went into the Baseball Hall of Fame as an Arizona Diamondback. Yes. I think that might keep him from getting a statue built outside T-Mobile Park. I don't want to downplay anything he ever did in Seattle. He's definitely worthy of being a Mariners Hall of Famer, and I believe they're retiring his number next year. It's going to be Ichiro and Randy, as both his number 51s being retired. And I think he's worthy of that for sure. But a statue, I mean, you got to be one of the team's all-time greats, and I think you have to be synonymous with that team almost in your identity. And for him to not be in the Baseball Hall of Fame as a Mariner, I think is the one thing keeping a statue away from him, maybe.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's the best argument to not put in a statue. Yeah. I mean, 4 Cy Youngs, I believe, with the Diamondbacks. He won a championship, so I think he is an Arizona Diamondback. His young career started here. He was a great pitcher for us, but greatness just doesn't get you a statue. I mean, you have to be,
face of the team, right?
Yes,
like Griffey and Edgar were, and Ichiro was. So
I agree.
I think the next statue being built outside T-Mobile is going to be Felix.
Yes.
Maybe someone else, but I don't see why you can't give Felix a statue.
And with that being said, does Felix make the Hall of Fame? Because it's questions there.
It's so tough. It's tough.
Questions.
I mean, me personally, of course I'm voting for him because I watched almost every time he started a baseball game, and I saw the impact he had. I think the thing that's keeping him, maybe from not getting in the Hall of Fame is that longevity at the end of his career. But then you have to go back and say the kid started pitching when he was 19 years old in Seattle in 2003, 2004. And so I think when he hit his stride and he was at his ceiling, it was that 5-6 years of complete dominance. That's what I look at when I'm voting for a guy for the Hall of Fame. And that's why I would vote for Felix for the Hall of Fame. But those Baseball Hall of Fame voters, they're stingy with their vote.
Does he get a mulligan for the Mariners not being a great team behind him, not giving him that run support? Because I think he was one of the pitchers that just pitched so well but never got the run support. They had a stat for that.
Yeah.
One of the pitchers who never got the run support. Do he get a mulligan for that? Like,
yeah, I think he's one of those guys you have to not look at the win total and just look at the ERA and the WHIP and some of those like dirtier numbers a little bit. Because like you said, like on a day that he would go out and pitch 7 innings and allow 1 run, that would be your final score, 1-0 the other team, So don't look at the win total for Felix and just look at the numbers and look at the impact he had in Seattle as well. I mean, he had that opportunity to leave that 1 year and chose to stay in Seattle. So, Hall of Fame voters won't look at that, but like here in Seattle, we know like he's worthy of being a Hall of Famer.
No, we don't want like a whole thing of statue. We want to still be special.
Right.
But I would contend Lou Piniella deserves a statue in front of T-Mobile Park also. Lou Piniella helped set the tone for this franchise. He was a winner. He pretty much was one of the best managers the Mariners ever had. And I love what I'm seeing out of Dan Wilson as a young manager. He definitely needs to improve in certain areas, but Lou Piniella was that guy.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Lou Piniella, his impact on the city as a whole, I mean, to bring the postseason postseason baseball to Seattle for the first time ever, kind of almost makes you feel like build a statue just for that, right? And then the 116-win season in 2001 obviously doesn't happen without Lou as well. You just need a guy in there that's getting everybody on the same page every day. And I think that's probably one of Dan Wilson's strongest points and something he probably learned from Lou.
Yes.
And like you said, there's things to improve. There's bullpen management, there's when should you bunt, when should you steal, things like that. But at the end of the day, is Dan Wilson the guy that can rally the troops? I think so, for sure.
Yes, I definitely think he has the temperament to lead the Mariners to their first World Series appearance, and I expect it to be this year. So you heard it here first on the Sidelines podcast. Austin and we're going to build everybody a statue, right?
The whole team this year gets a statue if they win the World Series.
Yeah, we like
right?
Oprah. You get a statue. You get a statue. You get a statue. Hey, why not?
It's just the team picture day where they're on the bleachers, but it's just take it and build a statue and then just put it somewhere outside the stadium. It's that easy.
Yes, let's move on. All right, we wanted to talk about the Storm quickly. The Seattle Storm, they won 4 out of 5, so they're back on track. They won on a buzzer beater Sunday night. Nneka Ogwumike, she had 30 points and the game winner. But I wanted to talk about the rookie phenom, the teenager, Dominique Malonga, who was finally coming into her own. She's getting more consistent minutes now, and she had 17 points and 10 rebounds. She's like a double-double machine now. I know she probably won't be Rookie of the Year because you have the Mystics rookies and Sonia Citron and Kiki Arifin playing better than she is, and I think they're deserving of Rookie of the Year consideration. But Dominique Malonga is coming into her own, and she's showing us why she was drafted number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was a high draft pick, so you knew the ceiling was high, and you just wanted to see, can the Storm develop a player into something great? Gone are the Sue Bird and the the Sue Bird days and
right.
and everyone else on those
Jewel
teams.
Lloyd,
Jewel Lloyd. It's a changing of the guard over the past couple of seasons. We've got some familiar faces, but Dominique Malonga coming in for the first season. You just wanted to see the team be able to develop a young player, and we've certainly seen that in her rookie season, and it's only upwards from here. If she can stay healthy, we've got a big down low for many years to come, hopefully, here in Seattle.
Yes, and she's multi-talented. I don't think she's just a big. She can come out on the wing. She can shoot the ball. Right now, she's shown like a penchant for rebounding. She had a critical rebound in the win the other night. Dominique Malonga definitely should be all rookie at least this year, and the future is bright. We all worried about, like you said, who was that next player? The Storm have always had that one linchpin, that one great player to kind of build their team around. And with this team getting a little older, Ogwumike is an older veteran. You got Skylar Diggins, who's also an older veteran. Ezzie Magbagor, she's a young veteran, but she's been in a league a couple of years. Now you have that future player that you can kind of build around, and you can, kind of project forward. And the Storm are looking. They're sneaking into 5th place right now, around 5th to 6th, and they should make the playoffs. And I expect them To win a championship.
Again, man, we're going all in.
Breaking news.
The chips are all in.
Seattle team should win the championship.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, Austin, but like that's the kind of the person I am. That's the kind of fan I want. It's championship or bust.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to play for the 5 years and have the 2-year plan.
Yeah, right.
We're going to just work our way to. No, like, what are we playing for? We're playing for a title.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Storm can get there.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides of the coin, right? Every year there's we think we have the ability to get all the way to the end and win it all. And then there's also like you said, we don't think of it as like 2-year or 5-year plan, but most teams do.
Right.
And they know, like, okay, to get there, you've got to develop well, you've got to play well over the course of a couple seasons at least. But on the other side of the coin is, if you get into the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yes.
There's nothing stopping you from winning a championship as long as you get to the postseason. We're going to see it hopefully with the Seahawks this year. They might be a wild card team, but all you have to be is a wild card team to win the Super Bowl a couple years. The Mariners might be a wild card team. Wild card teams have won the World Series before. Yes. I don't see why you can't win a championship as long as you get there. It's all about getting hot at the right time, and any team can do that.
And the Storm have proven they can beat the better teams.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Aces multiple times. They've beaten Minnesota. They beat Phoenix also. So those are the top teams. Atlanta, they beat them. So the Storm have defeated the better teams in the league. So they've shown that they can play with anybody. And like you said, once you're in, you have that chance. And the same can be said for the Mariners. And that's why I would love to see the Mariners. I wanted to see them win the division, but if they can hold on to this first wild card spot and get at least one home game because they played better at T-Mobile, I think the sky's no limit for the Mariners. I expect them definitely to be making an appearance in their first World Series.
Yeah, it's such a big thing for this city when you've got a playoff team. We've seen it with the Seahawks. We've seen it with the Mariners. We've seen it with the Kraken even, and the Storm. If they make the playoffs, the fans will come out and go crazy for a Seattle sports team if they make the playoffs. You just got to get there. And like you said, if the Mariners can somehow find a way to get into that top wild card spot even and host a wild card series, that's 3 days of just nonstop fun and action here in Seattle. And it's not even if you're at the ballpark. It's going to be everywhere around the city, at bars, at parks, at your house with your buddies, just watching the games. It's such an electric feeling. I'll never forget the Kraken making the playoffs a couple of years and just going to the Queen Anne Beer Hall down the street, and just that place was the loudest bar I've ever been in when they had that, I think, 7-goal game against Dallas.
Right.
And just every goal, people are up on the tables and getting loud. Even from the first one, they were getting loud. And then by the time the 7th was there, everyone just didn't even have their voice anymore.
And you mentioned the word, and I don't think it's any more word apropos, and that's electric. Mm-hmm. This city will be on fire for all of these playoff teams, definitely. And the Storm, they've won 4 championships. I was at the first championship parade. I was in school at that time, but I was there with my camera filming. So they have a history of winning championships. Let's hope these other teams can kind of catch up.
Yeah, right. And it's such an exciting time. Right now is one of my favorite times as a sports fan, just in general. You've got baseball season winding down. You've got football season about to start. You've got WNBA winding down, MLS winding down. So it's half your Seahawks or half your Seattle teams are getting ready to try and win at the end of a season, and then the other half is getting their season started. So the excitement level is just through the roof right now for me.
Now, I asked this question in a previous podcast, but I'm gonna ask you since I have you, Austin. Seahawks Super Bowl, Mariners World Series. What do you want to see?
You're asking the biggest Mariners fan in the world. It's got to be the World Series,
right?
And I don't want to say don't give me a Super Bowl.
You'll take it.
I obviously want the Super Bowl again, but the fact that the Seahawks have done it at least once now has kind of simmered that need down a little bit. Whereas with the Mariners, it's just been brewing my whole life, and people who've come before me, generations before me, it's been brewing their whole life too. If we mess around, we might get into a little Chicago Cubs situation where we go 100 years without winning a World Series. Please no. Let's get it out of the way now, right? Let's go in a World Series so we don't have to worry about that.
Right. Explain or describe that feeling, or what that feeling will be for this city, because I think you've lived in this city a little longer than me.
Yeah.
I know it's a void there. They've never even made it to a World Series. The only team in Major League Baseball that hasn't been there. Describe that feeling of what it would feel like to finally, at least, let's just say get there. Not even win it.
Right.
Let's just say get there.
Well,
what would that feeling be like for the city?
You have to equate it to the 2005 Seahawks team getting to the Super Bowl for the first time. Like the excitement level and just the impact that had on the city. I remember right around that time, it was actually 2006, the year after, but I remember, they had been to those Super Bowls, so they were right there. Like everyone knew, like this team can win a Super Bowl right now. I went to that Cowboys playoff game in 2006. I think it was a wild card game here in Seattle, and I just remember they won. It was the play that Tony Romo dropped the snap on the field goal, and then Jordan Babineau came and tackled him. I went to that game. I was sitting in the very top row of the 300 section, and my dad surprised me with tickets. It was a blast. But I'll never forget, it was the first time in my life that I had gone to a sporting event here in Seattle. And after you get outside of the stadium and you get to the parking garage, you get in your car and you get out on the street, that takes like 30 minutes alone, right? And it was still, once you got out to the street, it was at a stoplight, and everyone was stopped at the stoplight letting people walk across the street, and every single car stopped at the stoplight was honking their horns.
Right.
This was after a wild card win.
It was a party.
And I'll just never forget that feeling of like, man, this team rallies behind this city rallies behind their team when they make the playoffs. And it does not matter if it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey. Like, once you get a Seattle team in the playoffs, it's almost like you don't want to leave the city. It's like you just want to, like, spend the night in the city and just, like, walking around, talking to people and honking your horn, driving around. Like, it's just such a fun time here. And, like, the feeling that you'll see from Mariners fans if they win a World Series, I mean, I can't even tell you because it's never happened. Like, and I don't know what to expect.
Can you imagine, though?
I can imagine it. I imagine it every night before I fall asleep, actually.
Okay.
That's what makes me fall asleep. Like, okay, visions of World Series rings dancing in my head.
All right, that's what's up. All right, let's move on. All right, we're going to move on to what's trending. Austin, I mean, the NCAA, this is a story from 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about it because we couldn't talk about it last week. We ran out of time, but I wanted to talk about the NCAA sanctions on Michigan Wolverine football. Carna Stallions, he was, I don't know what he was, an athletic trainer or something. It's the sign stealing deal. He was stealing signs from the other college teams. The NCAA came down with over $30 million or up to $30 million in penalties and fines. They gave former coach Jim Harbaugh a 10-year show cause. The current coach, Sharon Moore, has a 2-game suspension and a 2-year show cause. But they didn't have to vacate any wins, and they won't have a postseason ban. I have a problem with this. What's your feelings on this?
I agree. I mean, you've got to do something like more impactful because I saw a tweet that day that said, like, if this is the punishment for winning a national championship, why not just let every team? Why wouldn't every team just go do this?
Right. I guess I posed the question: $30 million. Would you pay $30 million
Absolutely.
for your college team to win a national championship?
Absolutely. And it's like, if that's the precedent being set, then the NCAA is putting themselves in a really tough spot to justify that. I mean, because $30 million is, these college football teams make more than that in one single year if they win a national championship, just based on brand and exposure alone. Like, yeah, you're throwing, Michigan under the bus, and now people are going to say, well, Michigan, they're the sign stealers, they're the cheaters or whatever. But they won a national championship. They get to keep it. They get to keep going to the postseason in the future. So it's like the punishment does not match the crime in this scenario. Like, I think there should have been more.
Now, I wanted to talk about this story because it's a local tie, of course, because the Michigan Wolverines, they beat the Washington Huskies, UW, in that national championship. Now, do you feel like they should double back and give the Huskies that national championship? How do you feel about that?
I think, of course, they should. They're not going to.
Right.
But they should have. I mean, I feel the same way about any time a team cheats. I think they should be immediately vacated. Anything they did during the time that it's been proven that they were cheating. If they're stealing signs, do we know if they were doing it in the national championship? We don't know. Like, it's something that ruins the integrity of the game, and I felt the same way about the Houston Astros. The 2017 World Series.
The Trash Stros, you mean?
I mean, for that nickname alone, they should not be the 2017 World Series champs. Like, you can't really give it to the other team because they still, at the end of the day, lost the series. There's no way to say they would have won the series if the other team wasn't cheating, but you can at least vacate it and say Michigan and every other team did not win the 2023 national championship. Let's just say they didn't win it because they were
So
cheating.
it's a blank year.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Of course, I'd love to give it to UW as a UW fan, but just take it away from Michigan.
Now, in the military, we had a saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Uh-huh.
What do you feel about that?
I don't know. Maybe in some aspects for sure, but in sports, I mean, you got to keep the integrity of the game. You've got to prove to your fans that you care about the product on the field. If a team is not being punished for cheating, then you're almost telling NCAA football fans like, we don't really care if a team cheats. And it's like, well, why should I invest my time and effort into watching your product if you're not going to show the same effort towards the fans?
I just feel like if the NCAA felt it was important enough to levy those kind of fines and those punishments, why not vacate the wins? Why not give that championship to UW? Now, and to UW's, their fans and their players and coaches, to their credit, I haven't heard a peep out of the players or anybody saying, hey, that should be our championship. Then they've been quiet. I think if I'm on that squad or I'm a fan like I am right now, I'm saying, hey, give that championship to the Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly like a show of humbleness, I think, on their end, to be able to say, at the end of the day, we lost that game, regardless of what was going on or off the field. It was still a great season, to get past Texas in the semifinal, to beat Oregon twice that year the way they did was such a fun season. I don't want the whole Michigan thing to ever overshadow what UW did that year. I want to think of that year as, that Oregon regular season game, that Oregon conference championship game, that Texas semifinal game. I want to remember the good parts of that season, and so it'll always be tough kind of to look back and remember. Like, as soon as you think, like, oh yeah, remember UW played in the national championship in 2023, you're going to immediately tie it into Michigan's cheating scandal. And that just kind of sucks for, all college football fans.
And Coach Jim Harbaugh, he's currently with the LA Chargers. Mm-hmm. He was already serving a 4-year show cause for recruiting violations and other violations. They stack a 10-year show cause on top of that. I don't know if he wants to, but I don't think he can ever come back to college coaching.
No, I don't think he will either. I think that's why he jumped ship to the NFL, knowing what was coming down the line. And so, whatever. Let's just let Jim Harbaugh be Jim Harbaugh.
Right. All right. All right, we're going to wrap the show up right there. Make sure you check out On the Sidelines podcast wherever you download your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. I want to say thank you to our super producer, Austin Lane.
Of course.
Filling in. Ethan, we hope to have you back next week, man, in the big chair. Until next time, On the Sideline podcast, let's go!
See ya.
On the Sidelines is available wherever you get your podcast.